helps create the kind of future we want to live in. Biodegradable packaging and carbon offset shipping are standard. And during Pride Month, you get free local delivery in the Twin Cities when you enter pickup at checkout, now through June 30th. Whether you're buying a gift, treating yourself, or just browsing for joy, know that every purchase supports positive action. Celebrate Pride. Shop with purpose. Visit cause-cart.com today for free local delivery in the Twin Cities when you enter pickup at checkout until June 30th. Cause-cart.com. Shop what matters to you.
Boldly Challenging Ableism is here to go where some people won't. I'm Katrina Simons, and every week I'm digging into the real impact of ableism, breaking down myths, calling out barriers, and pushing for a world where disabled people belong in every space. With my work at the University of Minnesota's Institute on Community Integration and a lifetime of lived experience, I'm diving into everything from employment and housing to justice and culture. And yeah, I bring some humor and heart along the way. Catch us Sundays at 2 p.m. right here on AM 950, or listen anytime by finding Boldly Challenging Ableism on YouTube or your favorite podcast app.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Sunshine today with a high of 88. Chance of showers and storms tonight with a low of 70. Maverick's Real Roast Beef is an East Metro treasure with the best roast beef sandwiches in the Twin Cities and so much more. Maverick's is located in Roseville on Lexington Avenue, 1 mile south of Highway 36. Visit their website at mavericksbeef.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies are trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Booth and say hello. Still today at 2 o'clock, we have the Gailey Show, which is a 2-hour special. And at 4 p.m., the Illegal Trans Women with Ellie Krug.
Right on. Hey, thanks, Wendy. Hey, we have some awesome guests here. We have our regular Robert Lilligren, Native American Community Development Institute CEO, and also Jace Rowe, we like to call Auntie Jace, who's a big influencer all over Turtle Island. And we're really excited to be on here. And I want to start with Robert and just say, wow, it took me a while to get in here because of the funeral. We want to talk a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, hello, my relatives. This is Robert Lilligren. I'm a citizen of the White Earth Ojibwe Nation. It is a good day to be Indigenous. It's a good day to be Two-Spirit. So happy Pride, everyone. And yeah, Robert, I appreciate you bringing that up. It's kind of a somber day, very close by this festival. Right across the street is our Basilica of St. Mary's. Mm-hmm. And today was a service for our state representative, Melissa Hortman, and her husband, who were both assassinated recently. And so there was a big service. She was a devout Catholic and good progressive. And President Biden was there. Vice President Harris was there. Quite a who's who, quite a bit of security and traffic, which is competing with this Pride traffic because there's 1 million people down here already.
Hey, before we get into the history here, I want to get Jace on and welcome Jace. Thank you so much for being on and being the influencer you are all around Turtle Island.
Nice and PV Bona, everybody. My name is Jace and I'm Northern Cheyenne. I grew up here in Minneapolis and I'm very grateful to be here at Pride this year.
Yeah, we are too. And I want to get deep into the history. Robert, you know, you're a former city council member here, and things are a lot different. But having representation back then really has proved the proof in the pudding, the way things are happening here.
Way back then, huh, Robert? Yeah. So long ago.
many moons ago.
Oh, he caught that.
You know, I go back to the start. I'm a third-generation Minneapolis urban Indian. My grandmother lived just about 2 blocks that way. That's where my dad grew up. This Loring Park was quite a native neighborhood back then. So I guess that is going a little farther back. But I marched in my first Pride when I was 19 years old. On Wednesday, I will turn 65 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah, so, so it was a while ago.
I'm right behind you, and if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have took better care of myself.
I say that every day. So it was 1980, a teenage out gay man. And, very different back then. It was more of a protest action, right? More of a protest march. For maybe 1,000 people that marched in the street, maybe 2,000 people down here at that one little concrete stage.
Yeah.
We all sat up on the hill. It was very different. A locally famous drag queen named Miss Bet, who was a Bette Midler impersonator, was the MC for several years. The drag queens really kind of led the energy as they did at Stonewall, right. And so it was a different vibe, and to see it today when 1 million people literally come to the event, come to the park, come to the parade, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it's really important, and we talk about this. And Jace, when you were on the show last week, we talked about this too. How important we realize that the Native Americans have Two-Spirit representation through 10,000 years.
Right. I think for me, finding out about Two-Spirit really gave me a sense of identity, and it was very empowering when I started learning about the history of Two-Spirit people and how they played a role in each different tribe. Not every tribe had Two-Spirit people, but most tribes did. And so for me, that was a really sense of empowerment. And the community here in Minneapolis, the Two-Spirit community, is very strong, and it's growing. And it's growing. From when I started being part of the Two-Spirit community, I'd say like 10 years ago, I've watched it grow, and the younger generation really get involved. And in fact, actually use the term indigiqueer as well now.
Wow, cool. Robert, we always talked about when we were young in 1978, when we were able to be recognized and do our own religion as Native Americans, and people kind of came out of the woodwork that used to be Italian and said they were Native Americans, right?
Well, I love how Auntie Jace laughed at the year 1978. That's the year I graduated from high school, and there was a lot of federal legislation that passed, significant.
Right.
One of them being the Indian Education Act, the Indian Freedom of Religion Act, and before that, in this great country of ours, it was against federal law for Native people to practice spirituality off their reservations. So that did change everything. It changed identity. And I really want to build off what Jay said about Two-Spirit and the growth of awareness there. And I was very fortunate to grow up in a loving and welcoming family.
Yeah.
Not all LGBTQ people are. And this idea of Two-Spirit, my dad, who is my native forebear, it was never sort of anti-gay or anything, but as he learned more about the culture and about the role that Two-Spirit people played historically, he got just a really broader sort of understanding and welcoming, and that just felt really good. And I will also say, building on what Jay said, it's interesting here in our Twin Cities Two-Spirit community, how many Two-Spirit folks have stepped into those traditional roles. People are teachers, they govern, they heal, they carry culture. It's very traditional roles of Two-Spirit. And I'll find myself from time to time around a conference table or something with all Two-Spirit people. And I'm like, wow, this is something.
That's really great, because I know my role as a drug and alcohol counselor, I feel that fulfills the role as a Two-Spirit, helping our community, because I work in a culturally specific treatment center for Red Lake and for NAC Clinic, and we help our community find a way of recovery that works for them. And so for me, I feel like I'm fulfilling my role as a Two-Spirit.
Culture is healing, right?
Absolutely.
Culture is recovery.
Absolutely.
Right.
Wow, that's beautiful. And Robert, too, I was kind of getting at too, not so much the 1978, but I was getting when you were city council, we talk about the bridge and things that happened back then. Can you give us a little history lesson?
I look back, and there were times I was elected to the Minneapolis City Council in 2001. There were 2 other gay men elected that same cycle. So suddenly there was 3 of us. And I'm sure, as you know, when you're one alone in the room and one voice, that's one thing. When there's 2 of you, when there's 3 of you, that's something else. And so we were able to do things like advance the Minneapolis domestic partner registration. I got to author that resolution. And that was really laying the groundwork for full marriage equality not that much longer, 10 years later, so stuff like that really demonstrate our representation as a Two-Spirit or as a gay man, representation as a Native person, having that voice at the table. But what we were talking about before we went on the air was the 35W Bridge, and which became internationally famous tragically when it collapsed, and people lost their lives. People's lives were forever changed. But the community came together and did something really miraculous, was rebuilt that super important bridge in a year, actually a little less than a year.
Right.
And one of the aspects of it was this light. There was a programmable lighting system. And so because I was a transportation guy on the Minneapolis City Council, I'd had several briefings about the bridge. I knew that those lights could be programmed. And my best friend who lives very near there said, "Hey, Robert, can those lights be lit rainbow for Pride?" And I thought, well, I'll inquire. And so I asked, and I learned that technically, yes, they could be lit. And I was also told that our Republican governor at the time, Tim Pawlenty, would not approve a request to do that.
Wow.
So 2 years later, Governor Dayton's in office, friend of the community, the first governor to ever march in the Gay Pride Parade, actually. And so I worked with city staff and MnDOT staff, and we set a policy where local communities could request these custom lighting patterns. And my whole point was I wanted Pride to be the first one.
Wow.
So we went through the whole process. My city council office worked with MnDOT staff to determine the color configuration, the pier colors, the timing. We had a lovely kind of solemn ceremony to start it. And then over Pride weekend, we lit it for the first time.
Wow, that's amazing. Hey, I just want to remind everyone we're here live at Pride at the AM 950 booth, and I'm here with Robert Lilligren, CEO of Native American Community Development Institute, and Jace Rowe, Auntie JC on TikTok, but also, as you're finding out, doing a lot more for our community. And of course, Wendy Pilot holding up the end there with helping me, get through this, because God knows I need the help. Thank you, Wendy, for your support and love. And our anniversary is going to be tomorrow too.
Happy anniversary!
It's 24 years, and what does it feel like, Wendy?
Oh my gosh!
It feels like 24 minutes underwater.
Oh, hey. Wow. We worked on that one all weekend.
We're just kidding. It's a joke. Yeah, 24 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. You get some sort of medallion or
I do. I get a medal
every year, so we really appreciate that. Hey, one of the things, and I don't know how much time do we have left here in the segment. We got 2 minutes. That's great. Robert, I want to ask you a quick question too. What kind of legacy, because we're at that age right now where and I know you're really good at this. You helped me with my election as a Native, as a Ho-Chunk representative, and you really are into handing things down. But what do you feel about your legacy now? And I know it's hard because you're humble to talk about things like that.
Well, I'll just build on what you said. You came and asked me to help you on your campaign. I gave a little bit of guidance, and you just ran with it. But I really feel like from the beginning, that's something that I've been really committed to, is helping other people run for office, especially people of color, Native people, women. I worked on our now Lieutenant Governor's first campaign when she ran for Minneapolis School Board. Back in 2004, Susan Allen, who was the first Native lesbian elected to any state legislature during her special campaign. And I just have always found that really rewarding, because people wouldn't help me when I was first running. So I made a determination to help bring others along.
That's amazing.
Well, Wendy, I feel like we're among kings here today, and we seriously, my queens. I'm sorry, my bad.
Compared to the great work of both of these gentlemen who are with us today, I feel very light in comparison.
All right, we got to get busy.
Yeah, totally.
Jeez. Well, Jace, I really appreciate you being on, and I the next segment, I'd really love to know. Get in touch. We talked a little bit about this when you were on the show this last week, but how you became an influencer. And I think it's really important to talk about that, talk about your story and where you come, because we were talking about, doesn't matter where you're from, it's where you're at. And we learn from our past too. So it's really, I'm excited to hear that story again. And Robert, I just want to say this one thing here. When I talked to Robert about being on boards, how many boards are you on, Robert?
I joke about my 17 titles, so I don't think it's quite that many. But a reporter once said to me, I know you have 17 titles, but we can only use one. Which one do you want to use? So I like to be civically engaged.
Yeah, well, and it matters. And one of the things, too, we talk a lot about is mental health and how to take care of ourselves on Native Roots Radio. And I want to talk a little bit about that, too, because of the way a Native American Community Development Institute is run in a good way, in a non-colonized way. I think that's something that's beautiful and it needs to be amplified every time. So, hey, this is Native Roots Radio at Pride, and we're going to be right back after this short break.
Stay with us.
Four Sisters Farmers Market is more than a place to shop for delicious organic food. It's a celebration of Indigenous culture, food sovereignty, and community. Now in its 11th season, the market offers healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate local foods every Thursday from 11 to 3. Located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off Franklin Avenue, Four Sisters Farmers Market is a project of NAGD. Every Thursday now through October, discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market by visiting nagd.org. I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The Council on LGBTQIA2S+ Minnesotans is conducting a community needs survey. Two-Spirit and Native queer voices are sacred and must be heard. Your experiences will guide programs and policies that support our relatives across Minnesota. The survey is confidential and available at mnqt.info/survey. The May 31st deadline has been extended through June. Celebrate Pride Month and honor your story by participating.
What does it mean to begin? Creation Story explores Native origin stories through powerful contemporary art, connecting past and present with every brushstroke in sculpture. Explore how identity, culture, and resilience are shaped through art. Creation Story, now at All My Relations Arts through July 26th. This exhibition invites you to the heart of the Ochate-Shikowin storytelling, where spiritual relatives guide the way. Open to all. Learn more at allmyrelationsarts.org. Experience the beginning. Experience Creation Story at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. Support for Native Roots Radio comes from the Walker Art Center, an art space that's more than the spoon and cherry. Galleries celebrate contemporary visual art, including Indigenous artists like Edgar Heap of Birds, Cheyenne and Arapaho Nation, and Jim Demini, Ojibwe. Additionally, films screen in the cinema, and performances are shown on stage. Free every Thursday night and free every day for members and citizens of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org. Again, that's walkerart.org.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our local leaders. How do you reward your employees? How do you appreciate your business partners? Thousands of local organizations just like yours count on Minuteman Uptown for promotional products. We craft custom awards and plaques. We print your logo on apparel, office supplies, and thousands of other items. Minuteman Uptown helps you reward employees and stay top of mind with customers and vendors. We print everything. Contact us today at mpuptown.com.
Anine, I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio at the fair. At the, you know, we
like the fair.
It does feel like the fair. We're at Pride here, Wendy, and give us a little read there.
Yes, still ahead today after our show. 2 o'clock, we have the Gailey Show, which will be a 2-hour special. And at 4 p.m., the Illegal Trans Women with Ellie Krug.
Hey, before I get to our great guest here, Wendy, Robert Lilligan from Native American Community Development Institute, and Jace Rowe, Auntie Jace, and also just a great community member. I just want to read this M950's mission. We're here to celebrate Pride with positivity, joy, unity, while amplifying LGBTQIA2S voices. We are proud to support and stand together as a community, especially in time when the rights are being really under attack. And I think that's one of the things that, we have a lot of levity, Robert, when we're on the show, but we also have a big mission too here on Native Roots Radio and your work.
Yeah, Robert, I always appreciate the ability to kind of amplify the message, make sure we're steering our own narrative, right?
Yeah.
And for a very long time here, Native people did not steer their narrative. Our stories were told for us. And with young, strong, active people like Jace coming up, people who are raised with much more awareness of their cultures, their languages, their histories, their families, their tribes. It's just a different kind of feeling. Young people today, I feel like, are on such firmer ground than maybe old guys like us were back in the day. And it's just a joy to see it and to support young leadership into their rightful positions.
Well, that's a great segue. I'd love to hear your story, Jace, and talk a little bit about that. I'm really always happy to see you a couple times a day on TikTok and other social medias out there, and the positivity and the truth telling is just a beautiful thing. So again, thanks for being on. Let's talk a little bit about your story.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate all the kind words from both of you. And I am actually inspired even by our younger generation than me, who are active in the community and learning their language and rising up. And I really am inspired by them daily. I also love social media. I'm on once a day in the morning. I have a morning live, and I love inspiring others to remind them to be happy, to chase their joy, and remind them that joy is resistance, especially in times like these, where we should be coming together and forming community and supporting each other. And I didn't grow up with that messaging. I often would look on social media or TV and didn't see people like me, didn't see other natives like me. And so I think it's our responsibility as Native people to show up in these places and have representation. I believe representation matters in a big way.
Definitely. And I know we might not want to get into your personal life, but I know you've gone to a journey that's brought you at this place. And I know I talk about my journey of being clean and sober for 40 years and how my life's changed and how I personally, I would have never guessed my life to be this good 40 years ago. I would have really underkicked my coverage, and you really grabbed with your life and are doing things for the community in so many different ways. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I really appreciate that. I struggled with addiction myself, and I went through 13 different treatment centers, and it wasn't until my 13th treatment that was culturally specific where I actually found some hope, and I found a belonging in the community. And I think that's what was really missing. Finding out about the culture, starting to go to sweats, starting to talk to elders, learning about my own tribe, the Northern Cheyenne Nation, and getting some pride from that. I think that really made a difference in my life. And I have 12 years of recovery now, and I'm very grateful for each and every day. Because thank you, but I'd never thought my life would be like the way it is today. Yeah. I think I was so used to being on survival for so many years, and you get used to that cycle of being in survival mode, and you believe that's the way life is. And with recovery and with the culture, I've learned how to live now, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And I bring this story into the job that I do, working with our community. I work in a culturally specific treatment center for NAC and Red Lake, and I absolutely love my job. Watching our relatives come in, broken, and watching them grasp recovery and starting to grow on their own and finding a way of recovery that works for them, I think is really, really important without judgment, and encouraging them every day. And I just find such rewards in that alone,
That's awesome. And Wendy, I want to just have you jump in here about representation really quick and just tell your little story when you worked at the University of Minnesota about when a Native would come into the clinic.
Yeah, so I was a pharmacist who worked in a clinic at the University of Minnesota, and I would have Native clients come in, and I always felt maybe a little bit distanced, and they didn't really want to trust me. And, like, here's this white woman, what is she going to tell me? And I kind of really wanted to break the barrier and, mentioning that my husband was Ho-Chunk and asking them if they mind telling me what tribe they were from really broke down that barrier. And I felt like, they finally were able to trust me and talk with me, because I not that I was native to, but I'm married to someone who's native. So I do have an understanding, and they knew that. And then we would exchange words that we knew in our culture, Robert's Ho-Chunk culture, and they would tell me their words. And it really broke down the barrier. And I think that it was a successful meeting. And I think people were able to say, okay, I'll take this medication and I'll be able to get well.
Robert, when I first heard that, I cried.
I almost did here right now. And just to really lift up, first, congratulate you all on your journeys, but also lift up what you're talking about here. And through my day job at Native American Community Development Institute, we've been able to engage some of our relatives who live without shelter, who live in opioid use, and gather their thinking and directly from them. What do you need?
Right.
And the primary thing, the keystone of what they're looking for is cultural connection, spiritual connection. Before housing, before chemical health, physical health, it is that connection to culture. And culture is healing, right? And culture is prevention. And
right. I think the trust is the big thing. Like what you were talking about, Wendy. I have always said that I want them to be able to walk through our doors and see somebody that looks like them, see somebody that understands them, and it doesn't judge them. And when I get new relatives that come in, I say, welcome home. We've been waiting for you. Welcome to the circle, and that goes a long way. That trust aspect, because they've gone to other places, they've gone to other treatment centers, and they can see people that don't look like them find recovery. That's great, and I lift that up, absolutely. But I want them to come in and see another Native that has found recovery and say, hey, welcome home, you can do this. I think that's beautiful.
I remember my first 12-step meeting, and somebody told me that I was the most important person there.
Absolutely.
And I believed them, and ever since then, when a newcomer shows up, that's what I say to them. And I get emotional when I think about what Wendy's story about bringing our culture to her work and knocking walls down and just being real about it.
Right. The opposite of addiction is connection. I'm sure you've heard that before.
I'm writing that down too, because my next T-shirt's going to be joy equals
resistance, right?
Yes.
And I think that is beautiful. So I really enjoy my job a lot. I get a lot of rewards from it. And like you said, watching our clients go from like looking down all the time to actually lifting up their heads and being in community and chasing their recovery. I see people over at the Power to the People stage, like having booths now and starting their own organizations.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
And I think it's important to remember that that trust, I agree 100%, is important. A Native person is much more likely to trust another Native person, to open up around another Native person. I think it's important to remember the history of this. This distrust of institutions was deliberate, right? This was part of colonization. This was part of genocide and eliminating us, right? And so that's the barrier we need to get over to build that trust. And that's why it needs to be culturally specific, like the great work Jace does, or it needs to be native to native.
Absolutely.
It just amplifies the impact so much.
Wow, that's a really good point. I want to bring this up too, because I think we have different listeners on Saturday than we do during the week. And I just wanted to give your father a shout out. Robert, I listened to him for many, many years on they used to be the big neighbor, but now they're the evil neighbor. WC. No, but it was a morning ritual to listen to your father.
Yeah, thanks. You're always so kind. And my dad was a on-air radio personality here at a mega station back in the day. He grew up right over here. This was the Native neighborhood, Loring Park. And my grandma lived out there. Yeah. My grandma lived right over here, 15th and LaSalle, when I was a little kid. But he was a barrier breaker. There weren't a lot of Native people in that space. He took his cultural identity with him, for sure. And then as he matured, he became really key in language reclamation.
Yeah.
And he participated in a number of Ojibwe language tables down here. My mom would cook a big pot of chili and he'd come down. I found out later that most of the people at these language tables thought my dad made the chili.
Somebody didn't correct them, right?
But surprisingly young people will come up to me and say, oh, I was at language table with your dad.
Yeah.
And he was always so nice and helpful and supported. And he was really humble about his ability, but he was a great Ojibwe speaker. because he didn't speak it that much as a kid, but he heard it, right? And then his elders thought they were protecting him by keeping the language away from him. Of course, they were a product of English school, boarding schools. But he played a really key sort of generational bridge in language reclamation.
Well, I had the first all-native homeroom in St. Paul Public Schools for 10 years, and just to back up what both of you were saying about the up and coming of the youngsters that know the language, know who they are, and don't take any gruff either, because I think part of the thing that we always joked about, Robert, was like, in 1978 we found out all these people were native that we didn't know that we went to school with. And
I've shared this story with Robert before, but so I graduated from high school in 1978, Blaine Senior High School, just north of the Twin Cities here, and it was the year of the Freedom of Religion Act, all these important, the Education Act and things passed, and so suddenly there were these native things going on around us, and our high school held a luncheon for the native graduating students. And I assume they got our names off of tribal rolls.
Right.
So there was maybe a dozen of us around this table. Many of us had gone to school together from kindergarten to graduating from high school. None of us knew the other was native.
Oh, wow.
And you look at some of them, I mean, I'm pretty light skinned, but you look at some of them and you're like, of course they're Indian. You're like, wow, you're Indian? You're Indian? And for me, that was really powerful because it demonstrated that not only there was no benefit to self-identifying as native, right? There was actually a risk,
right?
So people held that secret,
right?
Not unlike being Two-Spirit, having to come out. We had to come out as native,
right?
Wow.
So I can agree with that. I think there's been such a change now where people take pride in being native, and I think that's so beautiful. It's a strength now. And I find that beautiful. I really, really do.
Yeah, and Robert, too, all the help that you give all politicians that run and the support. I wanted to talk just a little bit about how what your office at Native American Community Development Institute does with, I read a book years ago from Gail Sayers called I Am Third. It's the opposite of that, and it's taking care of yourself. Can you talk a little bit about how you decolonized your office?
We're working to, right? And I like to use the term indigenize instead of decolonize because I don't want to be in the colonizer's message space, right? So
Thank you.
We've worked to indigenize our work there. And I will tell you what really amplified that or accelerated that was during COVID. I got some excellent one-on-one time with a really respected cultural keeper here, Linda Eagle speaker.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so she was coaching and she had this whole curriculum based on moving a chief's role in moving a camp or a tribe from their winter camp to their summer camp. And it was kind of intense. She pushed me to make life and death kinds of decisions.
Wow.
But one of the things she taught me was that the indigenous way is to care for yourself first, your family second, and then your community or tribe third. And I would just push against her, and I go, Linda, we're native, we're indigenous, we care for the whole. She'd say it to me almost like I was a little kid, right? No, Robert, that's the colonizer's way. The indigenous way is care for yourself first, then your family, then your community. And so without really any proof, I thought, well, I'm going to believe her. And so I started practicing that in my life, and I saw the transformational impact on me and on my work, quality of my work. So we taught it to the rest of our staff at NACD, Native American Community Development Institute, and they resisted it, right? Because they're like, that's not how we're conditioned.
Selfish,
yeah,
right?
It does. Yep. It does feel selfish. And now we've been practicing that since COVID, so maybe 3.5 years. And the impact on the organization and our work is miraculous, almost magical, right? People come to work, they're cared for, their families are cared for, and they can give 200%.
Right.
To the work.
I think I really stress that, especially on my lives. I always tell people they need to pour into their own cup first before they go out and pour into other people's cups. Because if we're constantly, especially as helpers, we want to pour into other people's cups. But if we keep doing that, we're going to run ourselves low, and eventually we're going to burn out. We're not going to be helpful to anybody. And there's other people in the community also pouring into people's cups. So give them a chance to do it as well. So I think that home life, absolutely, you're working on yourself. Healing, and especially on my role as a drug and alcohol counselor, I really need to do that, and I have to have my boundaries at work, because I love our community so much. I just want to watch them heal and grow, and but they got to go and do that work at themselves as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, and we got a minute left here before we go to break. But Jace, I'm going to swing back when we come back. Is how do you take care of yourself? And that's really important in the work you do, not only online, but your job, which you sound like you really excited. I was a tech years and years ago at a halfway house for adolescent boys, and I know you can take some of their problems with you at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I think boundaries.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and we're at Pride, Wendy. And do you want to do a quick read here before we go to break?
Yes, we are at Pride. Stop by the AM 950 booth and say hello. Still ahead today at 2 o'clock, we have the Gailey Show, which is a 2-hour special. And at 4 p.m., the Illegal Trans Woman with Ellie Krug.
Hey, Native Roots Radio will be right back.
Stay with us.
Support for Native Roots Radio comes from the Walker Art Center, an art space that's more than the spoon and cherry. Galleries celebrate contemporary visual art, including Indigenous artists like Edgar Heap of Birds, Cheyenne and Arapaho Nation, and Jin Demini, Ojibwe. Additionally, films screen in the cinema, and performances are shown on stage. Free every Thursday night and free every day for members and citizens of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org. Again, that's walkerart.org. What does it mean to begin? Creation Story explores Native origin stories through powerful contemporary art, connecting past and present with every brushstroke and sculpture. Explore how identity, culture, and resilience are shaped through art. Creation Story, now at All My Relations Arts through July 26th. This exhibition invites you to the heart of the Ochate-Shikowin storytelling, where spiritual relatives guide the way. Open to all. Learn more at allmyrelationsarts.org. Experience the beginning. Experience Creation Story at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis.
The Council on LGBTQIA2S+ Minnesotans is conducting a community needs survey. Two-Spirit and Native queer voices are sacred and must be heard. Your experiences will guide programs and policies that support our relatives across Minnesota. The survey is confidential and available at mnqt.info/survey. The May 31st deadline has been extended through June. Celebrate Pride Month and honor your story by participating.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Four Sisters Farmers Market is more than a place to shop for delicious organic food. It's a celebration of Indigenous culture, food sovereignty, and community. Now in its 11th season, the market offers healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate local foods every Thursday from 11 to 3. Located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off Franklin Avenue, Four Sisters Farmers Market is a project of NAGD. Every Thursday now through October, discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market by visiting nagd.org.
Twin Cities Gay Men's Chorus is building community through music, one powerful performance at a time. With a vision of equality and inclusion, Twin Cities Gay Men's Chorus creates exceptional, entertaining, and essential programming that uplifts, educates, and inspires. Through harmony and heart, Twin Cities Gay Men's Chorus challenges injustice, celebrates diversity, and transforms lives. Learn more and find upcoming performances at tcgmc.org. That's tcgmc.org.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
In this portion of the show, we want to bring awareness to our Minnesota wolves. Say no to the hunt.
Oh! I always throw a no. Hey, I just want to thank our sponsors out here at Minnesota Pride. Twin City Pride at Cause Cart, No Place Like Home Real Estate, Twin City Gay Men's Chorus, Minutemen Press, and all the other great organizations that have supported us here today. This has been just a rock and roll show here, and Wendy, we are blessed to have guests like this on, and Robert Lilligren's on almost every Thursday.
That's
and
right.
and we're going to get Jace on, in a rotation
As much
too.
as we can.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
Absolutely.
And then, Robert too, I want to start taking a vacation now, so you might have to come guest host again.
Okay.
I'll come on with you.
All right, hold on. Okay, you got a team.
Yeah.
Co-host.
Exactly.
Anything to make sure you get your rest, that you're taking care of
you know,
yourself.
right.
Take care of yourself
Yep,
first.
I'm a
Self-care is
napper.
huge.
I'm a napper. I've been napping since high school, but that's a whole nother
I thought you
story
were
why
gonna
I
say
had to
since
nap.
1 o'clock.
No, 2 o'clock's my and who's up next after us, Wendy?
2 o'clock, The Gailey Show, 2-hour special. And then at 4 p.m., The Illegal Trans Women with Ellie Krug.
Ellie's been on almost as long as we have here on Native Roots Radio, and I just want to give a quick shout out to a Ho Chunk sister out there in the audience. Ho! Just wanted to give you a quick oh. Hey, so we got another segment here, Robert. I always say this to Robert on the show because Wendy always in between break would say, ask Robert what he wants to talk about. And so I'm going to ask what you'd like to talk about, and you and Jace.
Well, I think we've hit the two big topics I wanted to talk about. So I would like to hear more from Jace about self-care.
Yeah.
Kind of where we left off at the end of the last section.
Thank you.
I love having Robert on the show.
Thank you,
He's
Robert.
he's a better host than I am.
You asked about self-care and what I do to kind of decompress. I think for me, I am fortunate enough to live over by Minnehaha Falls, and I love taking nature walks. I love going by trees. I think trees are very powerful. And so I always encourage my viewers to go out in nature, go hug a tree, go talk to the water, make your offerings. And I think for me, that is a major part of my recovery and also my spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And that plays a large part in my self-care and making sure that I'm getting enough sleep, making sure that I'm eating right. Because I can tend to skip meals all day. And then by the end of the day, I'm crabby, I'm snapping at people, and I'm wondering why. It's because, I haven't eaten, So all those play a part in my self-care, and making sure, for me, leaving work at work is really, really huge. Because it's a stressful job at times and it can be heartbreaking, but I think leaving it there as much as I can and focusing in on my home life, that plays a large role in my self-care.
That's awesome. And I'd like you to bring up how people can listen to you and, on Instagram and TikTok. Can you give us your handle?
Yep. So on TikTok and on Instagram, it is the Auntie Jace. And on Instagram, I do have a blue check mark. Unfortunately, on TikTok, there are a lot of fake accounts that say the Auntie Jace. So you got to look for the real one. I have close to 500,000 followers on TikTok, and I have over millions of likes. So that is the real one.
Well, I like it every day, so I'm in that million.
Right on.
Right, Robert?
I appreciate it.
Well, I really appreciate what Jace says about self-care and agree with everything that he said. And, as a workplace, I get asked a lot, well, what does that look like? How do you do that as an employer? Mm-hmm. And, one thing is we put a very generous kind of benefits, PTO. I ask the people I work with to prioritize yourself, your family, and then your work. And so if someone can't make it, I don't care why. I trust them enough to believe they're doing what's right for them.
Yeah.
And they're taking care of themselves. And I'll do the same thing for myself.
Right.
It's like, this is a heavy day. I'm going to stay home.
NAC and Red Lake has been amazing as far as that goes. They follow kind of the same suit. And if you need a personal day, take a personal day. Right. And it's not questioning. Your work gets covered. And it's really, really beautiful. And they give a lot of great PTO too.
Right. And well, like I said, the kind of the dirty secret here is that I can expect so much more from the people I work with because of this approach. And I don't know why all employers don't take this approach, but that's kind of the secret. People, I think I'm the easiest boss in the world. The fact is, I'm getting so much more than I'm giving.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting too, I've worked with Native American Community Development Institute on a few things, and it was ended up being a Friday, and I still got responses during the weekend. So that goes to show that not only do they care, but I'm sure they're keeping track of hey, maybe I'm going to take Monday off because I just worked with Robert Pilot for 4 hours on this thing. And
So that totally makes sense because more things get done because there's not a barrier also.
You feel appreciated and you feel valued, so I think that does go a long way.
Yeah, wow.
And you're treating people like adults.
Right.
People
Yes,
like
exactly.
to be feeling like they're adults and accountability, and they're, have their own autonomy and all of that.
Right. Well, and I'll tell you, Wendy, you really hit the nail on the head right there. And some people come to NACD from much more oppressive, I guess, workplaces,
Right.
and they're kind of waiting to be reprimanded, or they want someone looking over their shoulder. And
Yeah, it almost becomes us against them.
very
and
much,
sneaky
very much.
about it.
So we have to unlearn that,
Yeah.
and make sure that people really understand that their autonomy is valued here, their personal agency is valued here, but a lot of people don't come with those feelings.
It's totally amazing when I ever hear about that. And I talk to people that work at Native American Community Development Institute all the time, and they're happy campers. Hey, before I want to change the subject just for a second, Wendy, and I want to bring up Cause Card because 3 of us are wearing Resist shirts here, and
They
we
are
have
our
to.
special rainbow resist for Pride. And yes,
They're shiny.
they are shiny. They're really awesome. But anyway, yeah, you could come down here to the AM 950 booth. We have a little barcode you could scan and order one of our Rainbow Resist shirts.
On my walk through the park to come here, 2 people were like, "Oh, I like your shirt. I like
Yeah.
your shirt."
I always get compliments on
I
the
know.
shirt. Just remember to wash it inside out.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Jason, we got one coming for you. And I know if you can wear large, we have one hanging up here for you too.
No, those days are gone.
But
It's all that self-care.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, jeez. Oh my gosh, don't even talk about that. Hey, so we got a few minutes, and I just wanted to give cause-card.com, and then if you get on there, hit Native Roots Radio, and you get to your jewelry, Wendy, that's on there, and all our T-shirts and our
I've made a lot
swag.
of jewelry. Yeah, by hand, smudging, lots of love and care.
Yeah.
Heart and soul went into it, really. Yeah.
And Jace, I don't know if you know this, and I know Robert does because he stops by every year, or almost maybe it's every other year. every 10 years, Robert. No, but we have a store at the state fair, and so we sell native inspired, native art out there, and T-shirts and things like that. And Resist is one of them,
And we support local artists
Yeah.
as well. We will buy their merchandise and sell it for them at our
Yeah.
booth. So we're always happy to do that.
yeah, and it's been really a heck of a journey because artists. Depending on what their need is, a lot of times is what they sell their stuff, and we try to combat that, especially with our Dayton store,
Yeah.
by buying wholesale and at good prices for our relatives, because somebody might need formula and sell a beautiful painting for $10, which is really worth $200, $300, $400.
Yeah, absolutely. So we would like to support those Native American artists as well. Yes.
So let's talk a little bit more of the history, because I think that was really interesting. It was more of a protest. It's kind of a festival, but I think right now, especially with AM 950 being here the last couple of years, we really have a reason, us here personally, to be here and support our communities.
I love it. And it's that visibility, right? That's so important. And I was thinking back to the first Pride March of the modern era that I marched, and I was a candidate for Minneapolis City Council. I was kind of a fringe candidate. I think people kind of thought I was a bit of a joke.
Oh.
I didn't have sort of party support here, so I was kind of on my own. And the Pride Parade is huge. It's just gigantic. It goes down Hennepin Avenue, our main theater district street. It's a big street. You have to fill it, so building a float, getting a delegation into this parade was a huge capacity stretch and capacity builder for my campaign. And because I didn't really have that kind of institutional support, it was just my friends and my neighbors and my relatives who would come out and support. And I remember marching down Hennepin Avenue in that first parade, and it just felt so good. I felt so visible, right? I had a rainbow flag wrapped around me, and I'm up on this platform, and it felt really, really special. That was 2001.
Yeah, wow. And that's a great story.
I also feel like our community's under attack, and I really enjoy when you're on the show, Robert. We talk about national and local politics.
I shoot my mouth off a little.
I'm glad.
My views are my own. They're not part of any organization that I belong to.
Right. Well, and this is the opposite here. We have a lot of joy happening and allies galore, and also the community, Jace.
Right. I think that's really important right now, especially like you said, the community feels like it's under attack. You can turn on the TV and just see these horrible news stories, and you feel, at least for me, I start to feel alone, or I start to have that anxiety. But coming together here and seeing everybody turn up, everybody, community, families, and it just reminds you that you're not alone. We're not alone, and we're still here in many ways.
Yeah, we're still here, definitely, and our community here is still here.
Especially our trans relatives, right? They
Oh
are
my gosh.
directly under attack, right? And so protect our trans relatives. And, I've often thought, being two-spirit or, a gay man, being Native, you're part of two communities that had to hide their identities, right? Just to survive.
Yep.
As we're talking about survival, right? And so having to kind of come out, be loud, be proud. But I just wonder what I carry with me still.
Right.
Being part of having these histories of having to hide,
Right.
identity.
Well, it's like a double whammy, right? You're
Yeah,
Native,
right.
that's one avenue, and then you're queer too.
Right.
So that's another avenue, So we wear different hats, and it's an experience.
Yeah, and interesting what you kind of is it correct that what I kind of got out of that is that there's still some maybe lingering buttons and trauma.
There's I'm sure.
yeah.
There is for sure. It's in finding those caring for yourself, but we see it in each other, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's easier to see it in somebody else than in yourself, and sometimes surprisingly young people will carry some of that cultural trauma, maybe that shame, be a little lateral about that.
Yeah.
People who I know better.
Yeah.
Right. But it's so in you.
Well, and again, that's where representation comes in. That's where we make our voices heard, and we get in community. We be those positive role models, and if we make a mistake, we admit it as well too. Because we're all learning as we go along.
Right, and I agree on the mistake thing, and just throwing that out there in the wind and all over is like, if I've ever made anybody angry, come to me first. Don't talk about me on Facebook or anything like that. But and that's a good way to be able to hand somebody tobacco and say, hey, I have a question on what you said here or what you did here, and I might not have a good answer, but I do have in my playbook I can apologize for mistakes and things.
Right, and maybe for some of the non-native listeners, handing someone tobacco is a very, very special thing. Tobacco is a sacred medicine. It's very respectful. If you're going to ask someone for something, to give them something. We're very reciprocal people. So just, for a little bit of cultural awareness.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that's part of our jam here. One of the things that I think it's really been lost over the years is when I see something I like on somebody and I go, I like that for me. And then they lie to me and say it was a gift.
Right. Otherwise, you'd expect them to give it to you.
That's right. Oh, I like that for me. Oh, wow. But but some, who knows if we weren't colonized, how many more or different clans there would be, and all the things that have been stunted over the years. And I know, like for Ho Chunk, we've had more than our 12 clans at one time, and some have disappeared and some have gone on. So I want to start a radio clan. Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
So we got a couple minutes left here, I do believe. It looks like we got 1 minute. So I'm going to let Jace give his spiel on how people can follow you and in a good way. And then also, Robert, I'm going to give you the last minute before I say we'll be back on Monday.
Okay, so again, just for myself, it's the Auntie Jace on TikTok. I have a daily live in the morning. I go live at about 6:30, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On Wednesdays, on the weekends, I go live at about 7 o'clock, and I go live for about an hour, and I enjoy that. So please come and find me and follow me.
And I'd invite people to stop on down to Powell Grounds Coffee Shop, All My Relations Arts Gallery. It's that funny little yellow building on the American Indian Culture Corridor on 15th and East Franklin.
Well, I feel, Wendy, that we were totally blessed to have these two on today.
Absolutely.
And up next, we have the Gailey Show. That's going to be on a couple hours, and we really appreciate them. Hey, Native Roots Radio, we'll see you during the week. A big Peeny Gigi, thank you.
You have a loved one who is not receiving the care that they deserve at their current memory care facility. I'm Aiden Helene, Director